Hi, folks. Larry Winget here. I'm covering, and I started last week, I'm covering a little series here based on this postcard that I have called The 10 Steps to a Happier Life because I think we all deserve to be happier. We should be happier, and there are a lot of unhappy people out there. And mostly it's because we just get in our own way in terms of what makes us happy and what we allow to get to us and all that stuff. Last week, I covered in the last episode, I don't know whether it was last week for you or whether it was yesterday for you or 10 minutes ago for you. I covered my number one thing, and that was to lighten up. Number two is this: forget blame. We spend so much time blaming other people for our problems. First of all, I'm sort of the king of personal responsibility stuff, but that's not really what I'm just talking about here. I'm just talking about we say, whose fault is it? Jim Rohn, who's certainly one of the people that is, in fact, he's truly my biggest mentor, even though I was only around him a couple of times, and Chris worked with him and co-wrote a book with him. He used to talk about standing in front of groups, and I've seen him do this. So let's make a list of all the reasons you aren't doing well. And they would make the list together, and he would say, well, what is it? And it'd be the government. Boy, we're good at blaming the government these days. And then they would say, you don't understand my coworkers. Let's put that up there. And your idiot boss and your family and the fact that you were the firstborn or lastborn or middle child or all that crap. Let's blame the weather. And he would go through all these things, a list of reasons people aren't doing well. And then he would always do is turn around the crowd and say, I have one problem with your list. You ain't on it. And that's about personal responsibility, but it's also about the way we live our lives in search of blame. And blame doesn't make you happy. Taking responsibility won't make you happy either, but it will allow you to at least know whose fault it is. And it's always going to be your fault. And even when it's not your fault, how you react to it, respond to it, is your fault. But if we spend our lives in blame of other people or circumstances, blaming others makes, first of all, I think it makes us it sort of exacerbates that whole victim mentality. And I just hate victimhood. But we can only be victims when we blamed someone else for our issues, our problems, the things we're going through. It doesn't serve us well. Number 3 on my list is you got to forget guilt. So forget blame, but forget guilt. And because guilt just really doesn't serve any purpose. Now, am I saying that I don't ever feel bad about something that I've done? Yeah, of course I do. I think an emotion that serves you better is regret. I wish I hadn't done that. But it's mostly understanding the difference between guilt. Guilt can immobilize people and it doesn't move us forward. And regret says, I messed up, I made a mistake, and now I have to move on so I don't do that again. I look at those two things very, very differently, and I think it's okay to have regrets. And I'm kind of like the Paul Anka song that Sinatra did, and the one who did it best was Elvis, and it will be played at my funeral as I did it my way. And there's a line in it that says, regrets, I have a few, but then again, too few to mention. And it's about when you live your life on purpose according to your values, you have fewer regrets. But the idea of the guilt that most people carry with them doesn't serve themselves. I told you when I talk about this card on the last one, I said every time I give you one of these little things, I give you a sentence that sort of explains it a little better. On the forget blame, I said you can fix the blame or you can fix the problem. But spend your time fixing the problem. Don't blame anyone else for it. On the forget guilt, guilt serves very little purpose. If you messed up, apologize and move on. And prove to the person or the situation you're in, prove it to yourself that you have learned from your mistake. And we all make mistakes. Every single day I make 1,000 mistakes. But we learn from them and we move forward with the intention, the heartfelt intention to the best of our abilities not to repeat that same mistake again. You'll make other mistakes, but you won't hopefully repeat the same mistake again. I think that's the idea behind those two. So, in living a happier life, lighten up, forget blame, forget guilt. Listen, it's been good talking to you. I'll see you on the next little 10 steps to a happier life.